I am going to try and not bore you with too many numbers. I'm actually here to give a very personal account of what I witnessed as a candidate. So it's a first-hand account of what I think was an unprecedented election in Pakistan. Not just that it was being conducted with the most fascist tactics being used against a political party in Pakistan, but also the environment. Our party was banned. It was not allowed on television. Nobody could take Imran Khan's name. His face could not be shown. And this is in the run-up to the election. So every day there's new stuff coming. Our entire leadership, majority, was in jail and still remains languishing in jails. The ones that weren't arrested were in hiding. So we actually didn't have a spokesperson to speak for us at the time. Not that the media would even take us on. And that is the general context and the general environment in which we had to contest this election. In the run-up to the election, so I'm just going to be, I thought I would go through, but I'm going to keep it a little quick and I'm going to keep it a little casual here. What basically happened was 4 weeks prior, on the 13th of January, elections were to be held on the 8th of February. On the 13th of January, the Supreme Court of Pakistan decides to strip the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf of its symbol. Now, a symbol is very important in a country like Pakistan, where the electorate is, the voter is not educated. There are many voters who are illiterate. Most of the population, majority, is in a rural area, so they need a symbol to identify a party. They sometimes don't read the name of the candidate. And because this time a lot of our candidates were going to be new people, new faces, they needed a symbol because our known faces and known members were in jail and they weren't allowed to contest and they weren't going to be in the race. So the symbol became even more important. And what's really interesting is that the symbol was taken away from us at midnight on the 13th. And that was the last day. It was Saturday night. It was the last day for us to submit our nomination papers as well. And so what happens is the symbol is taken away and suddenly we're all forced to become independent candidates, even though we've all put in our affiliation as PTI. We are all assigned assorted symbols. So how it works is that I contested for the National Assembly, which is the federal parliament. And then you have the provincial members as well who contest for the provincial assemblies. So it's 1 MNA and 2 MPAs under that. So it's like a panel. My MPAs didn't have the same symbol as me either. So we had 3 different symbols in one constituency for one party. Not only did I have to go and tell people that my symbol is now what you call a tong, but my MPA in this constituency, 219, it has a bowl, and the other guy in 220 has a pillow. And these are ludicrous symbols, by the way. Imagine contesting and saying, please vote for the pillow. Or like my brother who is given a pair of shoes, which is considered insulting in Pakistan, right? And anybody familiar with our culture would know that you don't give somebody a shoe. And he was the only one, I think, in all of Pakistan that was given that symbol. So it was a message. A message received because the people of Pakistan and the people of that constituency took that shoe and beat the government with it. And gave us an astounding mandate. If you look at the numbers, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf won 54% of the total number of seats across Pakistan. I'm talking about National Assembly and Provincial Assemblies, which comes to 469 seats out of 859 seats that were contested on the 8th of February. Unfortunately, that number was reduced to 33% at only 284 seats. Now, we have never seen vote theft at such a large scale. I mean, we're looking at 185 seats across Pakistan that on Form 45s, which let me explain to you, a Form 45 and why it's so important is that is a result that you're given at the polling station. So the counting is done in front of all the polling agents from all parties. The final result is put on Form 45. Those forms are then taken to the RO's office and they're consolidated. And the consolidated form is called Form 47, which gives you the final result. So 445 actually is the most accurate representation of the count. 47 is just a tabulation, which is why 45 is so important. So what happened was that 185 seats, the results were overturned, the results were changed, the people's mandate was stolen. Millions of Pakistanis were silenced with a stroke of a pen. And in my opinion, that is the greatest disservice to democracy that we have seen in Pakistan. Pakistan has not been a perfect democracy, ever. I think I have always seen it this way as a student of politics as well, that Pakistan was a country that was transitioning to democracy. And that journey to democracy since the 70s, has been patchy. But we've always made great strides. We've always been committed to being a democracy and to establishing and to fighting for democracy and to fighting for greater transparency. The current Election Act, which are the rules by which our elections are governed, was made in 2017, keeping in mind all these issues, bringing in more legislation and more rules to create greater transparency. But what we saw in 2024, none of us could have imagined in our wildest dreams that the government, the caretaker government, the Election Commission of Pakistan would go to such lengths. And this, mind you, may I tell you, is after, before the election, you have pushed a party against the wall, you have rejected their candidates' nomination papers. We had to go to the courts to be allowed to contest. After that, when our reps went to file our papers, because we couldn't go to file our papers, we would have gotten arrested or picked up or disappeared. They were picked up and disappeared. Our papers were taken away, so we had to go and make these nomination files folders all over again. I remember my brother and I sat because our secretary who took our papers to file for us was picked up as he was leaving the office, and all the papers were taken away. So we sat all night from 12 till 12 in the afternoon the next day just trying to put it all together because we had a deadline and we had to submit our papers. Then when you go for scrutiny, our proposers and seconders were picked up from right outside the election offices. And that's just not my story. That story is replicated across Pakistan. There are many, what I'm telling you, my personal account, the iterations of this account can be found all throughout the Grand Trunk Road, going all the way up in the north to Peshawar and all the way down south to Karachi. Everybody has a similar story. This didn't just happen to me. This happened across the board to the people of Pakistan and to representatives of Pakistan, Tehreek Insaf alone. No other party had to face these hardships. No other party was suppressed, oppressed, hunted, and chased like our people were. And this is when our entire top-tier leadership was already in jail. The ones that weren't were either in exile or were in hiding. And with this backdrop, we went to the polls. And a lot of times, my family asked me, my husband is seated here, my kids would ask me or would worry, and they would say, why are you doing this? I live a wonderful life. I don't need to be doing any of this. And I think about what compelled me. What compelled me was that there was a very stifling atmosphere where we had no freedoms. And as a daughter who saw her father being jailed and tried in a case in which he was innocent, and the prosecution pushing for capital punishment, I had to speak up. And as a mother of 3 daughters, I felt that I had to fight. I had to fight for their future and the future of millions of Pakistanis. Because today, and this is why this election is so important, and this is why we are here, and this meeting is so important, is because today, if we don't raise a voice for democracy in Pakistan, I think the democratic project or the journey to democracy in Pakistan will stand completely unraveled, broken, and dismantled. And it is very, very important that we speak for democracy and that we ensure that we can do that. We have a former Prime Minister, Imran Khan. We have a former Foreign Minister, my father, Qureshi, and multiple leaders of our party that are in jail for, it's been over a year. They're facing trumped up charges We've already been through the Cypher case. So they were tried under the Official Secrets Act and given 10 years in prison. Whereas the prosecution, and I heard this daily, imagine as a daughter sitting in a room and hearing the prosecution push for the death penalty. And then having to go run to your constituency and campaign under the harshest circumstances where our posters weren't allowed. I didn't have the space to campaign. My workers got called and threatened by the police daily. There were places before I got there, we couldn't hold large conventions because the police would come and rip everything up. We had to go within 4 walls. And even then, there are many times, there are many occasions where I got calls before I could reach a certain event saying, please don't come, the police show up and they will do nothing. Because at the end of the day, they're just bullies. And you don't get bullied. You stand your ground and you face the bully. And we did. And millions of Pakistanis did. They did not get disheartened by the fact that their chosen party did not have its symbol. They went, they looked it up, they memorized our symbols. In hundreds of symbols across Pakistan. They memorized them, they went out, they told the people, I couldn't campaign, I had 12 days to campaign. But there were people in my constituency who campaigned for me because they wanted to see Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf in Parliament. They gave us a 2/3 mandate to run this country. But that mandate has been stolen and reduced to 93 seats. And a political party that only managed to win 17 seats today runs the government. And even if we accept the fraudulent Form 47 results, we still have a minority government that is dithering, doddering, and has no idea on what to do and how to take Pakistan out of this mess. Which is why, again, it is so important that we have an audit of this election, that we allow the tribunals to run independently and freely. On the 8th of February, after facing many hurdles, many challenges, threats, abductions, our workers were picked up, my workers were arrested daily. We had to keep sort of supporting them and giving them, encouraging them to stand their ground. We go to the polls on the 8th. People come out in large numbers, despite the fact that telephone and mobile services were switched off on the 8th, to discourage people from coming out, to discourage people from maybe checking up on where exactly their polling stations were, to discourage people from, to create an atmosphere of fear, so that people wouldn't leave their homes, they wouldn't come out to vote. But people came out, and people voted, and they gave a verdict, and it was a very loud verdict, and it was in favor of PTI. But on midnight, 8th February, so now we are on 9th of February, the results somehow stopped coming in. At 11:30, on the 8th of February, with 55% of my polling station vote counted, I was leading by 16,000 votes. I tried to go at that point to the camp office, where as a candidate, not only am I entitled, I'm mandated by the Election Act to be present while the vote is being consolidated. I'm not allowed to enter. I was asked who I was, I introduced myself. I was asked to say my party affiliation. The moment I said Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, the man at the gate said, we're not allowed to give you entry. We can't let you pass. I waited an hour and a half, I went back. I returned at 3 a.m. disguised as a polling officer. I went in a small car, covered my head, I put on glasses. It's been an adventure. And I made it inside at 3 a.m. only to find that the place was swarming with police. They had no business there, but they were there. My opposing candidates were all allowed to be present while the vote was being counted. I was the only one that was kept out. My polling agent, my representatives were thrown out. The UN observer that was assigned to my constituency, because I met with him and I spoke with him that night, at 8 p.m. he told me even he had been thrown out of the room. So we didn't have observers, we didn't have press, we didn't have candidates, and we didn't have their representatives in the room where these numbers were fudged. And at 3 a.m. when I showed up at the door and I asked them why the result had still not been announced, I was told that it would be shortly. And I started talking to them, and in not so many words, I was told by the assistant RO that you worked really hard, you polled really well, you got a lot of votes, But this time, this seat is going to go to the People's Party. Have you ever heard of that in a democracy? Were we handing out candy? Was it Halloween? Did I come trick-or-treating? It was an election that I had won, and it's not about my seat. It's about the people of Pakistan and their vote, which is their voice and their opinion. So when you change those results, you stifle the people. You stifle democracy, you take away the people's right to speak, to have an opinion, and you take away their opinion, and you reject it. So we as a state have rejected our own people and have rejected their opinion and have pushed them against the wall, where today Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, they're banned. They're not working in Pakistan. So the people of Pakistan are being told, not only do you not have a vote, your vote doesn't matter, your voice doesn't count, and you're not allowed to have an opinion. And that is not what you call freedom. Freedom is the right to be able to say things that might be really unpopular as well, but people have to hear them. And that is what we are asking for. We're asking for you to speak for freedom in Pakistan, to speak for democracy in Pakistan, and to strengthen the people of Pakistan. Thank you.